I can't tell you what a deep pleasure it is for me just to be with you in the same room. Not because of the pandemic, but because of our work together on this cause. I'm increasingly surprised as I'm going to take my hat off to you, not wear it today on purpose. I'm increasingly surprised that professional liars like me get invited to talk anywhere in front of people. But and particularly in a hall that I looked up and saw, oh, what's it say up at the top of the stage, Mark? To thine own self be true. I think we're a remarkable group of people, and I think of that sentence up there, and it's, of course, there's true in it. And all this last month, I've been thinking of what to speak with you about, and thinking of this old phrase that Sir Francis Bacon wrote, not far from here, actually. What is truth, said jesting Pilate, and would not stay the answer. Do you know that essay? It's quite a good essay on truth. So we've got up here, to thine own self be true. I think the thing that marks us out is not only our hunger for truth, and thank God for people like Lindsay and Andrew and everyone involved here in terms of sending me the emails over these last 20 years that have kept me informed about things. So truth is important. I want to come back to that. But I think also this word self is very, very vital in this movement, in that I take it that we're all here and part of this because we don't have a sense of self that stops here, or a sense of self that stops here with our partner, or stops here with our child or our children, or stops here with our neighborhood or our council or our city or our country, or Europe, or people who speak English. But we have a sense of self that includes all people. And when someone's child dies, or someone's family is decimated, or someone has depleted uranium dropped into their neighborhood, and their descendants for 50,000 years will be poisoned, we include that as ourself as much as we can. I haven't prepared anything today because I just want to be with you, really, and speak not as a celebrity, but just as a citizen of the world, in the way that we are inspired by this wonderful organization and all the work that they put in to think of the world as one. That we're not different. We're on a sinking ship, aren't we? Certainly feels like it, for many reasons. But one of the first and most crucial steps we could do on that sinking ship to let the plants and the animals and the whole planet have some chance of survival is to stop fighting wars, isn't it? It's probably the number one thing, one benefit that we could do to help ourselves to survive. Anyway, so who am I here to even speak in front of you, other than a supporter and someone who's taken a chance to stand up in front of you at times and sing a song or read a poem or use other people's words to express some moment? What do I know about? What do I know about imperialism? Well, we actors know a little bit about it, actually. We are trained, I'm now 40 years an actor, in how to control a crowd, how to control the people and steer them through my interpretation of a play or a little group interpretation. And if I get a laugh on Tuesday night, and it's a big laugh and everyone enjoys it, you're right. The next night, I'm going to try and do it exactly the same. Now, that's a pleasurable imperialism, perhaps, but I'm still trying to control you and give you an experience which I think is the best experience or the right experience. That when Olivia in Twelfth Night says, "Oh, wonderful," when she sees there are two versions of the man she loves, that I want to do that, be standing in a certain way, say it in a certain way, that it gets the same laugh that it got last night, and maybe for 300 nights if I've done it for a while. When I came to the Globe, and for the first time the lights were on, and I could see you, the audience, and I wasn't just playing into darkness, into my imagination of what you were, I had to learn a lesson, which was I could see that this sense of saying or doing things in the right way, in the ideal way in my own mind, was actually limiting me from being here in the room with you. Because often I might say, oh, wonderful, and it'd be less of a laugh than the night before. And I would think, oh, I didn't do it so well, or this isn't such a good crowd. No, it was just a different crowd. So if there was one thing I said to other actors when they came to the Globe Theatre over my 10 years that I was there, was don't speak to the audience. Don't speak for the audience even. Certainly don't speak at the audience. Speak with them. To be or not to be, that is the question. It's something we share. I'm saying, do you agree? I'm not telling you, I'm proposing it. That's the question. That is the question. So there's a very particular subtle change as an actor that I do know about between someone who tries to control and get the audience to do exactly what I think is good for them, and best for the play, and someone who just thinks this play is a chance for us to be together and experience some things that might be very overwhelming in our own lives. Do you see the difference? This way of thinking, I credit as one of the things that's been a benefit of being a part of Stop the War. Because I look around I think of the causes of these wars that are such a horror, and a lot of them are to do with idealists, aren't they? A lot of them to do with people just like us here today. And I agree, I feel wonderful that we were right. But I also immediately we say we were right, I think, oh, Saddam Hussein thought he was right. Our friend there thinks still he was right, or certainly gives that impression. So this thing of being right for yourself and to thine own self be true, and imposing that rightness on other people, that goes on in a small way in our own neighborhoods, doesn't it? It goes on in ourselves as well. When we find things in ourselves that we think don't live up to the standard, or perhaps as a part of our own self that isn't really acceptable in society. Do we go in and suppress that? Do we go in and try and eradicate it? Some of the ways we treat disease in our NHS, I think, are similar to the way we do wars. We see that there's a little terrorist unit in this city, and we're going to get that terrorist unit with pinpoint radiation, pinpoint chemotherapy, and there will be no collateral damage. We're just going to take it out, and then we'll be well. The truth of the matter is, often there's enormous inflammation and collateral damage in the body. Now, that can be dealt with, and I'm not against some of these procedures when it's an emergency. But I was shocked to find from young doctors, how many days do you think they spend on nutrition in their 4 years training? Half a day, I was told. Half a day, and that's voluntary. Half a day. Thank you. We seem to behave the same way in terms of identifying people in the world that we think are crazy or wrong or doing all kinds of, we'll just go in and take them out. It'll be clear, simple. We'll just cut it out and that'll be problem solved. There's the comparisons of how much money we invest in military violent solutions of conflict compared to how much we invest in peaceful resolution of conflict is just staggering. And very similar, I think, to the way we treat our bodies, the way we treat the body of civilization. I hesitate to use that word these days, of humanity on the planet. I was struck the other day by a wonderful video of Michael Moore feeling the same way that we do, that he was right. And I was shamed to see his speech at the Academy Awards when he was given an award, like I was given an award once for making the Fahrenheit documentary, and he was speaking about the same things they'd awarded him for. You've probably seen that video. And they boo and hiss him in the most shameful way. The microphone platform lowers, the music raises, and they just put him aside. But he in the interview, they had a wonderful quote, which I wonder if you know who said this. Every gun made, every warship launched, every rocket fired signifies, in the final sense, a theft from those who hunger and are not fed, who are cold and are not clothed. Eisenhower. So how how do we control ourselves and move positively? How do we move positively and learn? Because yes, hopefully there will be no war at some point, but it's a long shot. It's a long path, isn't it? So we might as well enjoy the road as we're going along. We might as well learn from it as we're going along. I certainly feel that way. And I'm thinking that one of the things I'll end with now, because I should end, is why. Carrying on this thought of why do wars happen on the microcosm and the larger stage too. Of course, there's a lot of money to be made, isn't there? 300 million a day. Did you hear that the other day? That's Forbes magazine, the billionaires magazine. Did you have something to add to that? No, 300 million a day. And there are still bills to pay too. So you paid 300 million a day, but still there's bills to come up. That's what it's cost America to be in Afghanistan a day for 20 years. You can imagine where that money would have been spent. So there are people who want to make these wars, politicians, for fame, businesses, for money, but they wouldn't happen unless our young people signed up. So we've got to look at what is it that's drawing the young people to go out and fight. Soon they'll just be robots, it'll be different. But we've got to look at that. A very good book I want to finish on recommending to you is this, A Terrible Love of War, by the Jungian psychologist James Hillman. And it's a fascinating book. He's not a warmonger at all, but he tries to understand what the love of war is. And he comes to a very interesting conclusion, which is that soldiers have an experience in war they cannot find anywhere else in civilian life. And what is that experience? He calls it ethical intimacy. Much to his surprise, he finds this, ethical intimacy. And that is that your platoon of 6 men or 20 men, you may be walking through a very dangerous place, one of you gets wounded, you will go out into that dangerous place, even though you may be wounded or killed yourself, and rescue the member of your squadron or platoon and bring them back. That's an act of ethical intimacy. Unless we can find similar experiences for our young people in peace, they will be drawn and tempted towards war. And that's the same for us too, isn't it? Unless we are happy to just be with each other and not dominate or put onto each other our ideals, we also may not be able to stop the war. Anyway, as I said, I can't express my thanks more deeply to all the work that you've done and everyone that they've named. I want to name Brian Hoare too, the wild Brian Hoare. We marched that day, and we marched many days, but he stood 24 hours a day, didn't he? What an inspiration and a symbol. He was an angry man, wasn't he? But he stood with that Zimmer frame at the end. Remember passing by or going by, and there he was still standing, taking one hand up for the megaphone. Stop killing kids. 24 hours a day for 10 years. Well, we've got a lovely little statue that we're working to find a place for opposite the Imperial War Museum so that he will always stand there. I'll come back to you with more news about it. I'd like the costs really be covered by £1 a person. £1. No one can give more than £1. So that it's a good thousands of us that stand behind Brian, and we put him there facing the Imperial War Museum. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak today.
Thank you so